Look at your shirt. There's a high chance you are wearing a symbol that represents wealth, status, and luxury. But that symbol, one of the most recognizable symbols on earth, didn't start in a fashion house. It started with a brutal public failure, a lost tennis match, a joke, a suitcase, a crocodile, and a man who slowly disappeared inside his own logo. This video has no pictures to watch, only a voice and a story. In the dark, details emerge differently. Objects become symbols, symbols become identities, and eventually identities become industries. This is Lacoste, and this is the story of the man who slowly disappeared inside a logo. René Lacoste was born in Paris on July 2nd, 1904, into privilege, discipline, and expectation. His father, Jean-Jules Lacoste, was a wealthy businessman. René was not raised in struggle. He had access to education, comfort, connections. But comfort does not prevent obsession. And obsession arrived suddenly in 1919 during a trip to England. That was when René discovered tennis. Not casually, not recreationally, completely. He became consumed by it. His father was deeply skeptical. To him, tennis was not a career, it was entertainment for rich families pretending to be athletes. So he gave René an ultimatum: become world champion within 5 years or abandon the dream entirely. It sounded absurd, because René Lacoste was not a prodigy. He was not naturally elegant, not instinctive, not explosive. He lacked the effortless charisma of many champions around him. What he possessed instead was method, precision, patience, cold discipline. He trained obsessively, sometimes 8 hours a day, and when practice was insufficient, he engineered solutions. Literally, René invented an early hand-cranked tennis ball machine to repeatedly fire balls at himself for training, long before machines optimized athletes. He was already treating performance like engineering. And maybe that matters more than people realize, because René Lacoste approached life the same way he approached tennis. Every weakness was a design flaw. In 1922, he entered Wimbledon for the first time and lost immediately. First round, a public failure. Most people would have interpreted that as proof. René interpreted it as data. He studied, adapted, returned, and slowly the machine improved. In 1923, he had joined the French Davis Cup team alongside Jean Borotta, Jacques Brugnon, and Henri Crochet. The press would later immortalize them as the Four Musketeers. Together, they transformed French tennis into a global force, and René became the coldest competitor among them. In 1925, he won both Wimbledon and the French championships. In 1926, he defeated the legendary Bill Tilden. By 1927, he was considered the best player in the world. He defended titles under immense pressure. won matches while facing set points, played with precision of machine rather than the emotion of a showman. And perhaps that is why the nickname fit him so perfectly, because the true transformation of René Lacoste began during a Davis Cup trip to Boston in 1923. He noticed a crocodile-skin suitcase in a shop window. His team captain joked that he would buy it for René if he won an important match. René lost. No suitcase, but the story spread. American journalists started calling him the crocodile, not because he looked dangerous, because of the way he played. Relentless, patient, cold. Once he looked into a point, he refused to let go. And René did something unusual. He embraced the nickname completely. He asked artist Robert George to sketch a crocodile. Then he embroidered it into a white blazer that he wore during matches. A tiny reptile stitched into fabric, small enough to ignore, but impossible not to notice. Today logos are everywhere. In the 1920s, this was radical. Fashion did not work this way yet. Luxury brands hid themselves. Elegance was discreet, and sportswear barely existed as an industry. Tennis players competed in stiff, long-sleeved shirts, heavy trousers, and sometimes even ties. Athletic clothing was formal clothes pretending to tolerate movement. René hated this. He wanted elegance without restriction, prestige without discomfort. He wanted clothing that could breathe. And in 1933, together with André Gillier, owner of France's largest knitwear manufacturer, René officially launched La Société Chemise Lacoste. Their invention looked deceptively simple. A short-sleeved polo shirt made from breathable petit piqué cotton with a soft collar. The L12.12 Polo. Today it feels timeless. At the time, it looked revolutionary, because Lacoste was not simply redesigning sportswear. He was redesigning status itself, and perhaps even more importantly, Lacoste became one of the very first major brands to place its logo visibly on the outside of clothing. That tiny crocodile changed fashion psychology forever, because after Lacoste, logos stopped being hidden manufacturing marks. They became wearable identity. The shirts no longer said only, "This is good fabric." It said, "This is who I am." And people responded immediately. The crocodile spread quietly through elite spaces, tennis clubs, golf courses, country clubs, private schools, then eventually through global culture itself. René refused to spend heavily on traditional advertising. Instead, he understood something deeper. Status markets itself naturally. Influential figures wore the crocodile voluntarily. John F. Kennedy, Clint Eastwood, later Arnold Schwarzenegger, and the logo slowly became shorthand for controlled success. Not flashy wealth, disciplined wealth. In the early 1950s, Lacoste partnered with the American company Izod to enter the United States market. This changed everything. For the first time, Lacoste polos appeared in bright colors. The crocodile exploded across America. Ivy League campuses, suburban country clubs, golf culture, upper middle class aspiration. Soon, millions of Americans no longer referred to the t-shirt as Lacoste. They called them simply Izods. And this created a strange paradox. The symbol had become globally successful, but the original identity was dissolving. The crocodile was escaping its creator. Meanwhile, René continued inventing relentlessly. Over his lifetime, he filed 20 patents, not only in fashions, in sport itself. In 1961, he designed the first tubular steel tennis racket. Wilson commercialized it as the T2000. It revolutionized power in tennis and was later used by legends like Jimmy Connors and Billie Jean King. Again and again, René treated the limitations as engineering problems waiting to be redesigned. But his own body eventually became the one problem he could not solve. Years of respiratory illness and tuberculosis slowly weakened him. The relentless machine began failing internally. By 1929, after another French championship victory, René retired from elite competition. He attempted a brief comeback later, but the body no longer obeyed the mind. And maybe that is one of the quiet tragedies hiding inside the story. The man associated with discipline and control eventually lost control over himself. Still, the crocodile survived. In fact, it became larger than ever. After René passed the control of the company to his son Bernard in 1960s, Lacoste expanded aggressively into fragrances, eyewear, watches, leather goods, footwear, and eventually global luxury positioning. But success created new dangers. In the 1970s and 1980s, the company faced identity collapse. Cheap licensing deals spread everywhere. Quality became inconsistent. The exclusivity weakened. Rival brands emerged, including Le Tigre, which attempted to imitate the symbolic power of the crocodile with its own tiger logo. Then came decades of legal wars, with companies called Crocodile Garments and Crocodile International over reptile logos facing similar direction, which is strangely philosophical when you think about it. Imagine fighting internationally over ownership of an animal symbol, because once a logo becomes culturally powerful enough, it stops functioning as a decoration. It becomes territory. But the late 20th century, Lacoste faced another problem. The brand had become too common to feel elite, yet too elite to feel youthful. It was trapped between worlds, and for a while the crocodile began looking old. Then came reinvention. Licensing deals were aggressively cut, discount chains abandoned. Creative directors repositioned the brand back towards luxury. Sales recovered dramatically, and Lacoste slowly achieved something few heritage brands managed successfully. It became fashionable again without abandoning its original symbol. Then came perhaps the most intelligent branding gesture in the company's modern history. In 2018, Lacoste temporarily removed the crocodile from its shirts for the Save Our Species campaign. In its place appeared endangered animals, and the number of shirts produced matched the number of surviving creatures left in the wild. 30 vaquita shirts, because only 30 vaquitas remained alive. The crocodile disappeared, so people would notice extinction, and for the brief moment, the logo stopped advertising itself and started communicating vulnerability instead. But global symbols also accumulate contradictions. Lacoste faced environmental criticism from Greenpeace, accusation involving Uyghur forced labor, political controversies, censorship accusation linked to artist Larissa Sansur. Because eventually, every global brand discovers the same uncomfortable truth. Once you became part of a culture, you also become part of conflict. René Lacoste died on October 12, 1996, at the age of 92, but the crocodile survived him, which is a strange form of immortality, to slowly disappear as a person while remaining visible on millions of strangers. And maybe that is what brands truly are. Not companies, not products, but compressed human stories. Tiny psychological symbol stitched into fabric. Proof that personality itself can become wearable. Because in the end, the world rarely remembers people exactly as they were. It remembers the shape they leave behind. And René Lacoste left behind a crocodile. Thank you for listening to Darkroom Diaries. If there is another company, object, invention, or symbol you would like explored in the dark, leave it in the comment below. And until the next story, good night in the dark.